Welcome, everyone, to the NPBA or Region Power Rankings presentation. My name is Will, and I am joined by.
The Helix Fossil.
All right, let's just jump into it.
All right. So, starting off with our 16th out of 16th team in our power rankings, we have Slim and the Vermont Victinis. So, the main reason we had this last was the lack of balance. Lots of heavy hitting physical attackers, but only one real threat when it comes to special attacker being Chandelure. Obviously, there's some great mons on here. Comfey's great. The priority's fun. Chandelure's amazing. Sirfetch'd has good coverage. But overall, if you take a look at those special attacks, only one really stands out, and the second best is slacking. So, Will, I don't know what your thoughts are on this one.
Yeah, it's really lacking. You look at the averages of the stats down below, you see 102 average attack and that pitiful 70 average attack, or special attack, I mean. It's got some good components here. I think with a couple free agency moves, it definitely could get to, I would say, a more balanced place. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Moving on to our 15th out of 16th, we have the Kangas Kids with the Kangas Kid. Um, I'll let you kick this one off, Will.
I like this team a lot. I think it's got some really good components here, but it's also lacking. I would say the major thing it's lacking is speed. Um, with only one Mon even breaking the 90 speed barrier and that being Archeops, it really loses a lot of that offensive pressure that it does such a good job with here. A little bit
Yeah,
of priority with Prankster, Klefki, and Thwacky, but
yeah, I agree. Archeops, gets kind of crippled after some point, and this means you really have to run boots if you want to get any swaps in on it. Kind of another
yeah.
boots issue on this team with Rotom Fan, which is kind of big, and then most of the mons getting hit with it. And then I know Mega Cane Route hits hard, but there are about a billion water types in low tier, so it's gonna be real tough to play around.
Hmm.
I mean, Vaporeon is amazing, probably the best Wish Passer in low tier right now. And Garbodor having Toxic Spikes is a nice add, but I do feel this is just a lot of meh and not a lot of great synergy.
Yeah, yeah. They could do something with Trick Room and DD Mega Camerupt and then Water Absorb Vaporeon. There's something there. Or Trick Room Porygon too. Or Porygon as well, not Porygon too.
All right, on to Bulldozers, coached by Bull. Um, this team, we both kind of agreed it was an interesting team. I think Bisharp is phenomenal in this format. There's a lot of Eviolite mons, so no one wants to take a knockoff, especially one from Bisharp.
Hmm.
Then again, we do see quite a bit of issues with Earthquake, with Imbor, Bisharp, Mega Ampharos, and Deontay all getting hit by it with only one immunity, potentially two if Null is flying type, but I'd imagine we're going to see Violite most of the time, and then only one resist in Shaman. Um,
Hmm.
Regigigas might work out one or two games, but I feel like it's just going to be set up fodder for someone. Will, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Bisharp is fantastic. Having Defiant as an ability, discouraging any defog used against it. I think if it was paired with a bit more of a hazard stack kind of thing, Embor would really benefit from a lot of things being chipped. I think Bisharp is phenomenal, but it's just lacking in a couple areas.
I agree. All right. Then into, I think this is the 13th place team here.
Yeah,
We have
the
Bombers
the
here. I'll let you go.
Buzzwole Bombers. So, starting off with Florges as a first pick, um, I think Florges is great, but really starting off with more of a defensive, bulkier Mon is not always a great thing. But I still think Florges great support Mon for the team. But the major problem here is lacking a real offensive presence. Would you agree with that? A lot of the two highest attackers and special and physical are Lycavolt and Delmise, both of which are just pitifully slow.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it there. It's a lot of power, but slow, and unfortunately, both are weak to fire. So someone could bring a hard-hitting, even moderate speed fire type, and you're either going to have to run an Akaberry or you're going to just have to play around and sacrifice because you only have one resist for fire on the team being Poliwrath, and he doesn't have reliable recovery, so he's really not willing to take the extra chip damage on rocks or spikes coming in and then having to take the attack as well. He also
Mhm.
doesn't like getting burned with being, having a moderate uh, attack. So not the best synergy. I will say I love Vileplume. I thought for 8 points that was a great grab with Strength Sap and all the shenanigans you can pull. But we'll
Yeah.
move on.
Yep.
All right, and we have the gliding Gliscors with Gekul. Um, I think Webbs was a great first grab, and I think around that he did a pretty good job with some guys that and Mons that will really benefit from it being Tyrantrum. Galarian Moltres doesn't have to run a ton of speed. Even at 90, you can get away with quite a bit less. And Gligar, same thing. If you need to outspeed something, I think the Webs is a real big help. I do think that it's a little excessive having Gligar and Claydol. I know Claydol is great for the resistance to rocks and the immunity to spikes to get in and then rapid spin away. And Cloyster really doesn't want to come in on the rocks to rapid spin, knowing that you either have to run boots, then you can't run White Herb, or you can't run some sort of attacking item on such a useful mon. I think Metacham is always fun. Just hopefully it works out. And then I think getting the 1 point heat more was a really nice last minute grab.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem here is the repeated typings with, as you mentioned earlier, the Gligar, Claydol, and then the triple water types. I I'll be honest, I know a lot of people aren't gonna like this, but I don't really know what Floatzel does for this team. I mean, it has a nice speed tier for it, 115, fastest on the team, but outside of that, it's really not doing a whole lot, in my opinion.
No, it's not, but name will be not
Yeah,
happy
that's
with you for that. We'll move forward here. All
yeah.
right, and once we get kind of to this point, a lot of the teams get really similar. It was hard for us to decide, and then we get into the top three, we're a little bit different. And in our 11th place here out of 16, we have the New York Red Bouffalants. I think the most obvious thing is the best fire water grass core in the group.
Hmm.
Particularly Incineroar, I thought for me, if I had the first pick, was definitely up there with all of the utility it brings, the strong knockoff, the double. I think parting shot's fantastic, and Rotomose is very good. Where this kind of falls apart, I think we talked about was it Hazards? I think was maybe the tough one. You have a really fast
Hmm.
uh, arrow, but then after that, if it gets into an issue, it's kind of tough for it.
Yeah, and kind of a lack of some real extreme offensive pressure. Um, Magneton is good, it can hit hard, Incineroar, but there's no real powerhouse on this team. I mean, there's Glaceon, but it's
No, I mean its move pool's really shallow. I
yeah.
mean I think Sigilyph has got some offensive ability depending on the set, but I do think also
Hmm.
grabbing Fracture when you grabbed it was kind of a tough choice. I know you wanted to complete your Steel Fairy dragon core, but I think you almost would have been better off spending a point somewhere else. That's just my opinion, but we'll move on. All right, and Will, you can take this one.
Yeah, the Rhode Island Rampardos. So here we have an obviously trick room focused team. Now, in my opinion, and I think you'll agree, is that trick room is not the most reliable strategy in draft. I think it's fun. I think this coach obviously wants to go for trick room, and I think that's fantastic. Um, one concern about the trick room mode is that the two of the main trick room sweepers, being Marowak and Muck, are both weak to ground. And then Mud's still obviously not having that problem. But I think it's I think it's pretty solid. You know, the trick room, it's fun. It'll probably work a lot of the time. Girder too and trick room pretty good. I think Illumise and Dunsparce are two great 1 point picks. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
agree.
really solid.
I think my biggest issue is the whole your two best trick room sweepers are gonna be your weak to ground, and then Mudsdale obviously can come take earthquakes, but I don't think Mudsdale has reliable recovery. I think it's only recovery's rest, and I think your only
Hmm.
wish passer, if anything, is Illumise, which is the stall queen, clearly. So yeah, I mean, if if trick room you get trick room up and it works great, you might kind of clean house and win the league if you can. But if not, you don't have a lot, I feel like, going on outside of trick room.
Yeah.
And then we'll
Although
go.
Choice Specs Whimsicott is quite the threat.
I've never used it. And then we have here in the ninth spot, we have Las Vegas Drillers with Bowser Jr. A lot of speed on this team, so much that most of your mons probably won't even need to run full speed, and a lot of them may even be able to run a modest or an adamant set depending on what you need and what the other team has, which is obviously great. But unfortunately, as you get those fast mons, they tend to be a little frail, which I think is kind of an issue. But you do have what I think is a very good defensive core with Tangela, even Probo Pass, minus the two 4 times weaknesses, and Umbreon obviously being a great wish passer and being just a pain to deal with. So, and I do really like Hitmonchan in this format. Good priority, and rapid spin is really nice.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I think defensively, it's got a lot of tools to work with. Umbreon, Probopass, Tangela, all really good. One slight concern is the hazard removal, with I believe Hitmonchan, Rapid Spin, and Yanmega Defog being the only two. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, I think that's it.
I think that's it. But yeah, still really solid. Like the bulk, like the speed. Yeah.
Yeah, the speed is going to be not fun to deal with.
Mhm.
And then in our eighth spot, right in the middle here, is the Dayton Dedenne with Neon Umbreon, who took absolute monster first pick here with Heracross. You look at that attack stat across the board. You see 125, 125, 120, even Cacturn at 115. Really, really tough to deal with. I think kind of my biggest issue is, there's no bulky water. I think is tough. I mean, I know Inteleon Fastmon does a lot of damage, but is really frail, for usually something you prefer to get bulk in. Um, Actually, just kind of looking across this team outside of Golbat, Aromatisse, and Steelix, it is kind of a squishier team, but it does have some good pieces.
Yeah, I think relies a little bit, almost too much on Mega Steelix for bulk. I mean, it's got a Alolan Golem with a nice defense, but yeah, I really like it. I think it's got a ton of offensive presence to work with Heracross, Espeon. I mean, even Exploud, I think,
Yeah.
could be a huge threat depending on the matchup.
Oh yeah, Exploud will be Specs Exploud will be very annoying to deal with for people. And then the only issue is your kind of walls, other than Golbat, are all weak
Hmm.
to ground again. So kind of a common theme in the low tier it seems like, but we'll keep moving.
Hmm.
So next we have Kolkata Corviknight Riders. Your name is so long, coached by Royal Ashmit. This was an interesting team. We had a hard time placing because if you look at it, the first thing you notice is Alolan Ninetales followed by the meme fish lizard thing, an Arctozolt. So it's very clearly going to be a Hail team, especially with Sandslash too as a very good Hail user. I think getting Hitmontop was a great grab too because it's very reliable in spinning, and I think Poltegeist is also a good grab for potential offense in a Shell Smash user, but also gets Strength Sap can be quite the good utility mon, and obviously Miltank Defense Curl rollout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one spot, I mean, at one point we had this team as high up as third or fourth, brought down to, I believe, 10th, having a hard time placing it. But the main weakness I saw with this team is it's pretty predictable. I mean, there's outside of Ninetales, Arctozolt, Sandslash, plus a couple others, main core is going to be the same week to week in general. I mean, prove me wrong. I could be wrong with that. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think Alolan Ninetales is a great first pick. Um,
is a replacement coach too, so
yeah.
he did grab this team out of the kind of the leftovers. He also has Bidoof, so what a great piece to end on there.
Hmm.
And then in our sixth spot, we have Seattle SoulBlaze, coached by Bash. I thought Gardevoir was a good first pick offensively. I mean, it is very frail on the physical side, but it is an absolute monster when it comes to special attacks and coverage, and even some utility with Scarf Healing Wish, Calm Mind can set up. I mean, it's very good mon. And then the next thing you look at too, I think, is instantly Talonflame. What was it, Gen 6? Just monster bird, still good, especially even
Hmm.
better in low tiers. Um, I think it's a good, a very solid team. And then obviously, Lord Helix is on this team, so we had to rate it pretty high.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, this team also has a triple water like we saw earlier, but I really don't think it's as big of a problem here because um, there is that backup of good electric resists. You've got Steelix Immune, Alolan Executor, who's um,
Fat.
really not going to take too much.
It's a fat mon.
Yeah, it's 4 times resist to electric. Um, yeah, I love for Alligator Talonflame as 2 picks. I think for Alligator, I always forget it gets Dragon Dance, but Dragon Dance for
Yep.
Alligator is
Bull,
it's
say Bullet
going to be a
Puncher would be
nightmare.
mad if we didn't mention the 2 point or 4 point wishy washy. Having to deal with it is very frustrating. It is so bulky. But he also has some good defog and Rotom, Talonflame, and I even think Skuntank gets defog too. So it's
Yes, it
actually a
does.
good hazard control, and then good hazard setup with Steelix also and Omastar.
Do you know if anything on this team gets Rain Dance? Does Gardevoir get it?
Probably. I'm sure Wishy Washy or for Alligator, maybe even Alolan Executor. But yeah, he
Yeah,
definitely has options on it.
yeah.
All right. Next one up in the fifth spot is the Path of Braviary, coached by Nano or Nono. Go ahead, Will. You can kick us off on this one.
So just off the bat, looking at this team, it's a bit strange. Not in the way that like it's a bad thing, but it's just looking at it, you're not quite sure where it's going to go, if that makes sense. I think this team, it's got a lot of weapons. I like Electros here a lot as a very like a slow pivot. Virizion, I think, really good. Mega Banette, I think was a pretty good option. It's got that enormous attack stat, and in low tier, being as slow as Mega Banette is really not as big a problem because it doesn't have um, those checks it normally would. Yeah, what do you think?
I used Mega Net and JoJo last year to many people's annoyance, I'm sure. Uh, so, I mean, I can't even imagine low tier. You really don't even need to worry about speed on it because two of your moves are almost guaranteed to be your prankster priority, and then
Mhm.
usually a shadow sneak, and then maybe knock off, or depending on what, if you don't have Willow, Taunt, and Destiny Bond, you may throw in knockoff or Shadow Claw. I mean, you don't need to invest much in the attack to make it very useful. I thought Noivern was a great first pick too. I thought for 17 points it was a steal instead of an 18 pointer. With boots, it is a great pivot. Also can run specs, has defog,
Mhm.
boom burst, air slash. I mean, it's so good. Empoleon's obviously a great mon. The only thing that I would say is a little tough is you have three really Eviolite mons. So knockoff is going to be an issue. Obviously, you have Rizion who can come in on the dark type attack, but also Mega Banette would be the greatest choice because he can't lose his item, but he is weak to it, so you're going to take a ton. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, this
Mhm.
is a very solid team. I think it's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
All right, and as we move into the top four here, we started off with Atlanta, Torchic-Fil-A, and Johnson. So let's just start off with this one.
Now, obviously, we have the beginnings of a rain team here with Politoed. Um, Bronzong in the rain immediately makes me think. But yeah, some of my favorite stuff we've got going on here is just Udra is incredibly fat, especially. I mean, there's not a whole lot, especially because there are so few dragons, good dragons in low tier. Gudra not being threatened that much is, I mean, it will be able to just sit and with it, I believe it's hydration as its ability. Yeah, it will just sit on the field all day.
Yeah, no
Um,
toxic, and the rain will
yeah.
be really tough. Yeah, I mean, Gudra's fantastic. Shout out to Glenn, Gudra Gang. But
Mhm.
it's a very tough on. I think honestly, a lot of the synergy is great. A lot of things you're going to want to bring are those electric type attackers, but it's going to be tough with Manectric in there and Donphan. So be very
Mhm.
tough. I think Kabutops was a great choice on this team. I believe
Yeah.
it spins. It even has flip turn now, in Aqua Jet plus Swords Dance. I mean, you could run a lot of stuff in them on. Obviously, I don't know what Cubfu's gonna do. I'm interested to see, but I think getting Shiinotic too with the Spore was probably a nice little
Yeah.
utility pick too.
I mean, this is pretty obscure, but there is the option for Trick Room Bronzong with Spore Shiinotic.
That would
Maybe
be a
maybe that's
lot.
going too deep.
That's a lot to get just that one one spore off. All right, we'll move into our top three, and starting with Fluffy and his high on SlowBromine with his fantastic stoned logo.
Wait, I think that is not supposed to be Mega Sharpedo, if I am correct. I think that is regular
It's
Sharpedo.
regular Sharpedo, yeah.
Yeah, so I made an error on that one. I apologize for that.
Yeah, but you can take this one.
Yeah, so I love Volbeat just kind of as a low tier grab for this. Um, but yeah, Celebi Crobat. I think Celebi gets U-turn, right?
Yeah, pretty sure.
So Celebi, Crobat, Lantern, Sharpedo with flip turn. There's a ton of momentum on this team. Um,
It's really good.
yeah,
I mean, obviously,
it's
the kind of common theme though here is the multiple mons weak to
to
ground.
ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just kind of seems to be the low tier way. Obviously, he's got two immunities, and it's I mean it's very and then a resist and Volbeat, but it's a very good team. I mean, I don't know what you. I mean, if he gets Sand up to with Doug Trio at that speed in this set of tiers, he could be
Yeah.
really tough to deal with. Crobat's obviously phenomenal. There's immediate
Mhm.
offense. There's multiple setup mons here. So and I think grabbing Audino for the high HP Wish Pass was also a good idea. Obviously, it loses Regenerator, but he doesn't have to Mega turn one. So if he just wants to sit on Mega Audino with just having it regular Audino with the stone, he certainly can.
Yeah.
All right. And then we get into my team, St. Louis Shroomish. Uh, I had like the seventh or eighth pick, and I had ninth actually. It was terrible. I grabbed Moltres first pick. I'm surprised it got away all the way down. I think it's a monster in this tier. Decent speed, very good bulk. That U-turn even with a negative um, stat is going to hurt. Obviously, flamethrower
Mhm.
and fire blast and air slash are going to be useful, but also roost, PP stalling. It just seems to do a lot. I thought it was incredible in just regular tiers, uh, and so I'm happy to get it in this one. And then obviously the best part of the team is the team mascot is there.
Mhm.
It's I mean, I use it all the time on ladder. It's great. I don't know how it's gonna do in draft, but I'll let you dissect the rest of it.
Yeah. So I think the biggest strength of this team is that every single Mon is good. Even Thievel, I mean, it's not amazing, but realistically looking at this team, every single Mon here I can see coming and being like an um, actively helping the team, which I think is something that a lot of teams struggle with just grabbing one pointers that won't really contribute to the team. Yeah, I think Breloom works fantastic with Moltres. Moltres being weak to those rock and water and electric, and Breloom um, resisting those, and then just being able to absolutely destroy rock types, water types. I think the synergy between those first two picks is great. Um, I think Fortress is a great grab. Not a ton of great steel types in low tier. I think Fortress um, with Rapid Spin, I think it's really good grab here.
Yeah, it also gets it's got all the hazards,
Yeah,
minus
yeah.
sticky webs, but webs isn't really necessary for my team. My speed tiers are pretty good. Unfortunately, I have two 90s, but one is Thievel and the other one is Moltres. So I'll probably split them up a little bit. But I thought Zeb
Mhm.
Strike up for 3 points with two potential immunities, a good speed tier, and then
Yeah.
respectable special attack is I guess the way to put it, but a very good attack. I thought I was able to balance my physical attackers and my special attackers pretty well. Watch
Mhm.
out for quick feet Earthring, by the way, people. It's not just going to be
Ooh.
guts. And for our number one team, we have Auckland Lickipies with the most cursed image that has ever existed on my computer, coached by Lucas. This team, he managed to grab four 17-point mons, which
Yeah.
instantly becomes incredibly tough to deal with. And then to support those, he made a couple very smart choices in Gastrodon, Raichu, Pincurchin, and Sceptile. So you have the threat every week of either it being a Sceptile Unburdened sweep or a Raichu Surging, whatever it is, Surfer Nasty Plot sweep. I mean, it's two very tough speeds to deal with, and then Mega Glalie gets spikes. Return does a ton of damage. There's some other sets you can run and still gets freeze dry. The only issue I had with this team was you got two Mons that are not coming. Maybe coughing one game for
Mm-hmm.
maybe a Will-O-Wisp and a ground immunity, but I don't think otherwise you're really going to bring those two. So it kind of limits your options down to 9 Mons, and one of those is Kamala, which is good, and it's your best hazard removal, but it's still not the best Mon. So
Yeah, I think Kamala at 3 points was an absolute steal, even if it's not the greatest spinner ever. Um, yeah, I think Hatterene, fantastic pick here. Super offensive fairy. But yeah, everywhere you look, it's threatening.
yeah,
And then
the
the
Hatterene's the biggest issue to deal
yeah,
with on this
the
team.
the one other thing was the shared ground weakness with Blaziken, Registeel, Raichu, Pincurchin. Um, and then two of the only resistances or immunities to ground being Coughing and Caterpie. Not really super great, but there are ways to deal with that with this team.
Yeah, I mean,
Gastrodon
air
can be
balloon
bulky
or
enough.
there's a
Yeah,
couple air balloon on Registeel or something because it's only
yeah, and
recovery's rest.
Mega Glalie will threaten most ground types with either a return, double edge, ice shard, whatever it's using.
Yeah, but yeah, don't take these too seriously. Obviously, you never know who's gonna win. But we'll end it there. Thanks for listening, guys.